In the meantime, let's see what Nick has. I'm sure he'll be much better at what he has to say about this than I will. Been ranting for over 20 minutes. Get some pictures to make it more interesting. You might have something. Maybe I will. Someone wants to edit that for me, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I will edit that whenever I get to edit that. But yeah, there is my angry rant about grifters complaining about grifters, basically. Now, for this, we have the Fat Electrician talks about Waffle House, the Roman Colosseum of the South. Waffle House food is great. And something that I know going into this, I haven't seen this video, but something I know about Waffle House going into this is they will stay open through almost anything. There's a thing called the Waffle House Index. It's a legitimate thing where they basically say, depending on how Waffle House reacts to a disaster, that is how you know how bad the disaster is actually going to be. Waffle House almost never closes. So if Waffle House has to adjust their hours for any reason whatsoever, suddenly eyebrows go in the air and people start thinking, we might be in trouble here, folks. And if Waffle House does close for any reason, that is when you panic. I have seen Waffle Houses smashed. Okay, completely smashed. And rather than close, they brought in a food truck and said, nope, we're open regular hours, you're good. Waffle House don't close for anything. If Waffle House is closed, you're probably screwed. So, I hope that he talks about it. He'll probably talk a lot about the history of the restaurant, which I don't know much about. All I know is they have good food and the index. It does. Yeah, it does close you best. Yeah. In fact, with the hurricane alerts that we just had it's this past summer. Well, I'm realizing that we're going into the next summer now. The hurricane alerts that we had this past summer. People wouldn't evacuate until local Waffle Houses announced that they were closing for the hurricanes, and then they got out of there. It took telling people, no, you don't understand. The Waffle House is closing. Not just adjusting their hours. It is closing to get people out of the way of the hurricane. I hope let me double check my audio quick. I think we're good there.
Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. I actually debated on which channel I was going to upload this video on because on one hand, we're going over a business and the business model that it has. But on the other hand, this restaurant is basically the Roman Colosseum of the South. And I'm pretty sure if you eat there enough, you actually get a deployment patch from the US military. Regardless, I wore my schnazziest tank top for the occasion. Today we're talking about Waffle House. Okay, just to be completely clear with everybody, I was pretty sure I was not going to get caught off guard because Waffle House is already absolutely crazy. I started looking into it and then found out that Waffle House is somehow connected to the Manhattan Project from World War II. So they managed to actually surprise me, and we're going to get...
Okay. Started off strong. I didn't see that one coming.
Get to it right after a word from our sponsor. Yeah, babe, what's up?
Hey, I need a boombox.
Okay, I can go get you one.
Perfect.
All right, I'll go get it now. Love you.
Love you.
All right, bye.
1 hour later.
Where's that boombox that I asked for?
Oh, it's right here. I got it for you.
What is this?
The boombox.
No, I wanted something to play music with.
Oh, that kind of boombox. Yeah, I got this instead.
Okay, we'll go to the store and get me a boombox so I can listen to music.
Can I keep this one still?
I don't care.
This video is brought to you by Delete Me, okay? Super simple business model. You give them money, they turn around and they make sure that online data brokers are not selling your personal information online. Okay, here's the deal. Pretty much anytime you use a free service on the internet and you click that little box that says, I agree to the terms and conditions, you've basically just agreed to allow them to harvest as much of your personal information as humanly possible. They then turn around and sell that to online data brokers, and that's how they can afford to offer you a free service. But when you have Delete Me, they go and they monitor all of these online data brokers for your personal information, and then if they find find it, they submit all the opt-out forms on your behalf, so they have to take down and stop selling that information. So when you buy Delete Me, you're not actually buying anything, you're just buying your way out of all the negative consequences of all the free shit that you've already gotten. And because they continue to monitor those data brokers, you're buying yourself out of all the future negative consequences of all the free shit that you haven't even gotten yet. So if you want to give Delete Me a try, there's going to be a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, Waffle House. Our story begins with a gentleman by the name of Tom Faulkner. This man graduated from law school at 23 years old, passed the bar, and immediately gets drafted in 1940 in the days leading up to World War II. Because he graduated from college, he's presented with two different options. He can A, go straight into officer training, and that's a 3-year commitment, or he can just be a normal draftee and go in as an enlisted soldier, and that is a 1-year commitment. Now you gotta remember, at this point in time, like 1940, while World War II is currently going on, America's not involved yet. The attack on Pearl Harbor has not happened, and prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor, the American people did not want to go to war. Because of that, Tom Faulkner figures, hey, we're not actually going off to war. I don't want to waste 3 years of my time just being in the military, not actually, fighting a war or whatever. So he chooses to be a draftee. Goes into the military as an enlisted soldier, E1 private. From there, goes off to basic training. As soon as he gets through basic training, the attack on Pearl Harbor ends up happening. America enters the war. He immediately opts to go into OCS training and commits for 3 years. After he completes the officer training course, he actually gets slotted.
Quick aside, as someone who has not been in the military but knows a lot of people that have been in the military and has heard them talk, if you're an officer candidate, you can kind of do some negotiating on your contract in the military. You actually want to do what he accidentally did. You want to do basic training and then go into the officer stuff, because something that I hear over and over and over again is to learn, that the basic training is going to give you a new perspective on how things, work from the grunt side of stuff, as well as just teach you a lot of the practical, in the field, how not to get killed type stuff that, the officer training's like, well, theoretically, sorry, my eyes, you will not be, you will not be in the front line. That's what the grunts are for. Though, of course, in practice, unless you're like a super high ranking officer, you're probably still going to be in the front line somewhere. So, just as a heads up to anyone who sees this, who is thinking of joining and is an officer candidate, see if you can negotiate some basic in with your training. Something I've heard from many people, one of whom retired as a general, is a very good and welcome idea. Though, again, this is coming secondhand. I cannot personally speak to this. I can only say a story that I've heard several times.
To go into OCS training and commits for 3 years. After he completes the officer training course, he actually gets slotted to be a counterintelligence officer, where he does, and I quote, a lot of top secret stuff.
You see, my identity must remain mysterious and my mission secret. I cannot reveal it to you.
You can actually tell in the interviews that he gave later on in his life, like in his 70s, 80s, and 90s, that he's still not sure what he is and what he isn't allowed to talk about. But he did end up telling us that basically it was his job to try to sneak onto military bases, not as military personnel. So he would basically disguise himself as like a painter or a carpenter or whatever, and try to infiltrate a U.S. military base to expose weaknesses within the system to help counteract enemy spies.
Penetration testing. That's a really important, really good, and something I hear from quite a few people, really fun job.
So he does that for a couple of years, and then one day he ends up getting orders like, hey, you're going to Knoxville, Tennessee. And he's like, okay, for what? And they're like, don't fucking worry about it, just show up. So he shows up in Tennessee and he's given his orders, and those orders, I'm paraphrasing here, but they're essentially, hey, here's your partner. You two are gonna hop in that truck and you are gonna drive it from Knoxville, Tennessee to Los Alamos, New Mexico. You guys are gonna dress in plain clothes. You're not gonna look at what's inside the truck. You're not gonna talk about what's inside the truck. You're gonna take this map and take that exact route. This route avoids every major city and every major highway. You were going to drive straight there.
They're hauling nuclear material.
53 hours straight, taking turns sleeping in the passenger seat and not stopping for any reason whatsoever. And he does this for the next year and a half, pretty much non-stop. And then like 20, 30 years after the fact, he finds out that he was actually hauling the majority of the enriched uranium for all of the nuclear testing and the building of nuclear weapons.
What'd I tell you? But not like that was Not like that wasn't too obvious if you know any details about it. But still, I did call it.
Majority of the enriched uranium for all of the nuclear testing and the building of nuclear weapons. Which, as we all know, brings about the end of World War II, at which point he gets out of the military, moves back home to Atlanta, Georgia, starts helping his dad out with his real estate agency. Now, he does that for about 10 years, and during this time, he ends up selling the house right next door to his to another guy by the name of Joe Rogers, and they pretty much become best friends. Joe Rogers was also an Army veteran. He was actually a pilot that flew B-24s in World War II. When Joe got back home after the war, he did not want to go off to college, so he actually just took the first job that he was offered, being a short order cook at a now defunct restaurant chain known as Toddle House. He worked his way up, becoming a restaurant manager, then eventually becoming a regional manager. And then one day, his neighbor and best friend, Tom Forkner, real estate agent, always looking for the next investment, comes to him and is like, hey, I'm thinking about opening up my own restaurant. I can get the real estate deal going on that side. I just wanted to know, like, if I opened up and bought a franchise of Toddle House, would you be willing to run it for me? Now, at this point, it's like 1954, 1955. Joe Rogers has a ton of experience inside the restaurant industry, and he basically tells his best friend, like, hey, don't open a Toddle House. You should start your own thing. Toddle House's business model isn't that great. If you start your own restaurant, I will help you run it. He then goes off on vacation with his family, and by the time he comes back, Tom Forkner has already bought the real estate and comes to Rogers and is like, cool, what's the business we're starting?
Where's Pancake's house? What? We stop at Pancake's house.
And within the span of like 6 months, the very first of what is now the legendary restaurant chain of Waffle House opens. And Waffle House is legendary, probably for all the wrong reasons. I mean, even if you've never been to a Waffle House, you've heard
The Waffle House Index probably is up here. It's like, yeah, that's not a reason you want to know about a restaurant, but sure.
Waffle House is legendary, probably for all the wrong reasons. I mean, even if you've never been to a Waffle House, you've heard about Waffle House because, well, I mean, Kid Rock got in a fight there. You've got Haley Booth, the viral Waffle House known as the last chairbender. There's
That fight's
subreddits and YouTube
fantastic.
channels almost exclusively dedicated to all the fights that break out at Waffle House. I remember the first time I went to a Waffle House, I stretched first, I grabbed a GoPro, I was ready to yell World Star, Nothing exciting happened. I just had delicious breakfast at like 3 o'clock in the morning, which is probably 99% of people's experiences because despite all of the negative PR, Waffle House makes a ton of money and has an incredible business model. Okay, Waffle House had about $1.4 billion in revenue last year, which is about $650,000 per location. And when you take into consideration that each Waffle House is absolutely tiny, that's really impressive. Out of their 2,100 tiny Waffle House locations, their yearly stats are 58 million cups of coffee, 124 million waffles, 153 million servings of hash browns, 272 million eggs, which is about 2% of all the eggs consumed in the United States of America, and 85 million strips of bacon. Yes, I did the math. That is about 8,000 miles worth of bacon.
I worry what you just heard was, give me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was, give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
So Waffle House is obviously doing something right. What exactly are they doing? Well, it all comes down to their business model and their branding. Now, with the Waffle House branding, all the negative PR about fights always breaking out at Waffle House, in a way, has actually helped them out a ton because Waffle House, by and large, is pretty much a regional chain. It's primarily down in the South. Yet, Waffle House has become a household name pretty much everywhere in America. You could have never even seen a Waffle House, and you already know Waffle House is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and they serve breakfast. Why do you know they serve breakfast? Because their name is fucking Waffle House. I mean, look at this sign. You're driving down the road, you see that, you know everything you need to know. They sell breakfast. The end. Do that with another breakfast place. If you're not from there and you don't know what a Denny's or a Perkins or an IHOP is, you have no idea. It's just a restaurant. Maybe. Waffle House, they're selling waffles, which means there's like a 99% chance they sell other breakfast food. Fucking sold. I'm in. So already, the branding is absolutely incredible.
I never thought about that. Denny's and Perkins is like, okay, yeah, that's a name restaurant. If you don't know they're a diner, you're not thinking diner food, certainly don't know breakfast. How many people don't know what IHOP stands for? I never thought about that. Because IHOP does stand for something. If I happen to be talking to anyone that doesn't know what IHOP stands for, I'm gonna give a sec, just in case. Before I say what IHOP stands for, someone's probably Googling it. Okay. I stand very corrected on this. IHOP stands for International House of Pancakes. Yeah, Blue Kitty has it. There was like that April Fool's Day when they said they're doing burgers instead of pancakes, and they changed the P to a B, so it was International House of Burgers. But yeah, it's an International House of Pancakes. I never thought about the fact that there's probably a lot of people that don't know that IHOP is actually an acronym for something. I never thought about that. That's just neat. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible branding when you realize that, but it's a neat fun fact.
But here's the true genius of it. Why did they call it Waffle House? Why didn't they call it Breakfast House or Bacon House or Hash Brown House? It's because waffles had the highest profit margin. I cannot stress to you enough how absolutely genius that is, right? Because you don't need to sell breakfast, all right? Everybody's already in on breakfast, okay? I could be blackout drunk at 4 in the morning and you could ask me, hey, do you want breakfast? I'm coming up like the Undertaker every single time. And then you go, the only thing open right now is Waffle House, okay? I was already sold on breakfast from the get-go, but because Waffle House is where we're going, guess what I'm getting? A motherfucking waffle, and they're making more money. It makes sense that Tom Faulkner was a...
He's right. When I'm sick, I almost exclusively eat breakfast for whatever meals that I can actually eat something.
And guess what I'm getting? A motherfucking waffle, and they're making more money. It makes sense that Tom Faulkner was a counterintelligence officer because the man literally said 2 words and has already subconsciously tricked you into ordering the most expensive thing on the menu that makes him the most money. So the branding of Waffle House is both simple and brilliant, and the rest of the business model matches that to a T. Okay, all Waffle Houses are like virtually identical. They're very small. They only seat like 30 people, and you can actually see the cook making you your food. Now, at a glance, you're just like, oh, they're just going for that like 1950s drive-through type of a vibe, which they are, but there's way more to it than that. Because the restaurant is so small, the kitchen never has the opportunity to get bogged down, meaning that they're moving tables very, very quickly. So instead of having 1 kitchen and 100 customers, you've got 1 kitchen and 30 customers, and you can just turn those tables over 3 times faster, which pretty much guarantees that every customer is going to get exactly what they wanted. Okay, they're not going in there for 5-star dining. They're going in there because they're hungry and they want breakfast, and now they're going to get breakfast really quick in a small setting that doesn't feel like a packed restaurant where they have to wait in line to be seated. And I know what you're thinking. What if...
When I worked at NASA, I ate at Waffle House, I want to say 5 or 6 times a week. Just off I go. Breakfast, good, done, off to work.
Setting that doesn't feel like a packed restaurant where they have to wait in line to be seated. And I know what you're thinking. What if one Waffle House just reaches its maximum capacity, right? What if it's just completely full with a line out the door 24/7 every day of the year? Waffle House surely would build a bigger Waffle House, right? No, we're gonna take the same parking lot, and right next to that first Waffle House, we're gonna build a second fucking Waffle House, okay? The plan is working, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Which is one of those things that seems dumb.
There was 3 of them.
First Waffle House, right? No, we're gonna take the same parking lot, and right next to that first Waffle House.
What are these comments? Waffle House and ATL taking over for the 99 and the 2000. These folks got the block sewed up in ATL. You know, one of them the good Waffle House. But which one is the good Waffle House?
We're gonna build a second fucking Waffle House, okay? The plan is working, and if it's not broke,
there are
don't
3
fix it.
Waffle Houses there.
That seems dumb, but is actually brilliant. So obviously, speed is key to this business model, and they've done themselves a big favor with their menu because their menu is overwhelmingly.
One moment, there is something going on outside. That's concerning that the front camera is the one that's not working. We were just at the good part. There were 3 Waffle Houses next to each other. Is it storming? Okay, it's storming. I actually don't know if we're gonna make it through the whole stream. Okay. Also, why is it only storming on one half of the house? Huh. Anyways, Waffle House things.
Simple business model, and they've done themselves a big favor with their menu because their menu is overwhelmingly simple, okay? It's literally one side of one piece of paper. Okay, the entire menu is comprised of like 10 things. They have waffles, sausage, bacon, ham, eggs, toast, biscuits, gravy, butter, and syrup. Guess how many flavors of syrup they have? One. It's fucking syrup-flavored syrup. The entire menu is simple, exactly how it's supposed to be. Oh, sorry, they have hash browns too. Sorry, 11 things, not 10. Anyways, moving on. Another reason they do so good is they actually might be the best fast food chain when it comes to taking care of their employees. They pay them higher than average, they have super flexible schedules, and they're one of, if not the only fast food chain that actually offers all their employees healthcare and dental insurance. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, but really, how good are they actually treating the Waffle House employees? I got the one stat that's everything you need to know, okay? Waffle House treats their employees so well that employees are willing to commute into a natural disaster to work at a different Waffle House when the occasion arises. Yeah, Waffle House is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they fucking mean it, okay? Whenever there's like a hurricane coming or some type of impending natural disaster, Waffle House organizes what they call a jump team, a bunch of Waffle House employees from a different region that's going to be unaffected because they know that their local employees are going to be busy taking care of their own family and their own houses during a hurricane, so they bring in teams from outside the region to work inside of a natural fucking disaster, and they're willing to do it.
I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Okay, McDonald's can barely get their employees to show up on a good day, and Waffle House has...
That... I knew that they stayed open through natural disasters. I never really thought about how. The jump team thing is wild and impressive, and holy smokes does it sell you on working there. That they treat you well enough to do that. That you'd be interested in doing that. Holy smokes. I mean, I liked them just because it was a nice place to eat. The people were always friendly, and, as he said, the food is great. But I just thought the disaster thing really from the meme, but and of course the alert. But okay, yeah. There's not a lot of jobs in any industry where you will sit there and go, yeah, I'll go work in a hurricane for you. That's fine. My paycheck's worth that much.
Okay, McDonald's can barely get their employees to show up on a good day, and Waffle House has employees volunteering to commute into a fucking hurricane to make breakfast. And this is the most impressive part of the business because Waffle House has the best logistics and preparedness of any company I've ever seen ever. The only entity that beats them in logistical capacity is the United States military. Waffle House is literally ready for absolute...
For those who don't know the military stats, the United States military is capable of putting a Burger King anywhere in the world in 24 hours. That is an actual statistic. The United States can put a Burger King to feed soldiers anywhere in the world within 24 hours. The United States military is not a military in the traditional sense. It is functionally a giant logistics company that dabbles in combat. There are dozens of logistics personnel to every single soldier. We're going to use a World War II stat because that's the only one I can remember. The United States had 18 people working in logistics for every one soldier. I think it was the British military that had 8, and the Japanese military that had 1. There are multiple stories going around. The Rommel one's the most famous, but there's a whole bunch of them that go around about how German officers and soldiers understood that they were not going to win the war, when they were capturing American soldiers with cake and snacks from home. Another comment was that the Japanese were scrounging for edible weeds, and the United States had an entire fleet dedicated to moving ice cream, which is a true thing. We had entire cargo ships, a whole fleet of cargo ships, who's spread throughout all of our logistics train, whose only job was to haul ice cream because it was the treat for soldiers to keep the morale up. It's wild what the United States military's logistical capability is compared to pretty much anything else. So the fact that he is comparing Waffle House to that, again, Waffle House Index, I could believe it, but it's still such a wild and impressive comparison when you actually realize what it means.
Preparedness of any company I've ever seen ever. The only entity that beats them in logistical capacity is the United States military. Waffle House is literally ready for absolutely anything. Every single Waffle House has the playbook inside of it that details exactly how the staff is supposed to handle literally any type of emergency or situation that could possibly arise. And if for some reason the situation comes across that isn't in that playbook, after it happens, they immediately add it to the playbook. It covers tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, a hole in the roof from a branch falling, a car driving into the restaurant. You can drive a car into Waffle House and they're still planning on staying open. The playbook even has detailed plans for every type of disaster for what the local employees, while they're not working, should go home and do to make sure that their house and their family are safe as well. Every single Waffle House has a backup generator. The stovetop, it runs on propane, and they have a bunch of extra propane tanks on hand. Flashlights, candles, batteries, backup water. They have a special menu of what they're able to serve when the water is out and they're running on reserve water. When a Waffle House location is going to be in a disaster area, that Waffle House stocks up on extra food, and then all of the neighboring locations in the unaffected area also stock up and stage food there to get them more food when they need it. If Waffle House is a standing structure, those motherfuckers are serving breakfast come hell or high water.
I'm not leaving.
As stated, I know of at least one Waffle House that was not a standing structure and was still open for business at regular hours, aka all the time. I think we've all just learned that in the event of a natural disaster, go to the Waffle House.
Sure, those motherfuckers are serving breakfast come hell or high water.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving!
Waffle House is so good at this that FEMA uses them to gauge how bad natural disasters really are.
Here it is.
FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, literally uses the Waffle House Index to gauge how bad a agency.
Let's have a good look at that. The Waffle House Index. I told you it was real. Look at that. A little concerned about the internal use only marking there. Yep.
Literally uses the Waffle House Index to gauge how bad a disaster is. Okay, green, Waffle House is running as normal. Yellow, Waffle House is using the backup generator or having to use an altered menu. Red, Waffle House is closed. People are probably already fucking dead by that point. Waffle House is literally the Terminator of the fast food industry, okay? The fact that the federal government, probably the most powerful entity on the planet, maybe ever, looks at a chain of restaurants and is like, man, if Waffle House is closed, we need to mobilize the National Guard is fucking crazy. Now, maybe you guys are thinking the same thing I was at this point in my research, and I'm like, man, I need to invest in this company. I need to see if I can open up my own Waffle House franchise. This company's awesome. And this is where the bad news comes in. I mean, technically you can franchise a Waffle House, but most of us probably can't. The company is privately owned. It's not on the stock market. It's still owned by the families of the original two founders. And while they do allow franchises, they are super picky about who they let buy in to have a franchise, and they make it very, very expensive to buy in to make sure this is actually what you want. And while that is unfortunate, I think it's actually kind of awesome. It's a company that actually has morals and cares about their image more than they care about next quarter's profits, okay? It's a company that has committed themselves to making breakfast under any circumstances, and they're gonna see that through till the very end, even though they could probably make way more money by just selling franchises and letting whoever the fuck throw up a Waffle House. And now for the fairy tale ending.
People have talked about how there will be two things still standing at the end of the world. Cockroaches and Twinkies. I think there are now three things that will be standing at the end of the world. Cockroaches, Twinkies, and Waffle House.
Selling franchises and letting whoever the fuck throw up a Waffle House. And now for the fairy tale ending. Joe and Tom worked together as best friends for 62 years to build Waffle House into what it is today. They both passed away at the ages of 97 and 98, and now Waffle House and their legacy lives on as that company is still being operated by their kids. And that is the American dream. Get together with one of your best friends, pick a goal, even if it's something as simple as serving breakfast to people, and never let anything get in between you and achieving your goal, even hurricanes and floods and natural disasters, apparently. Work with your best buddy for 62 years straight, and then die together and hand it off to your kids. In conclusion, Waffle House is the most American company ever, and that's why I love it. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
That was seriously impressive.
Just two homies that dedicated their life to serving my drunk ass breakfast at 3 a.m. I'm gonna get teary-eyed next time I go to a Waffle House.
That is really, really darn impressive. Yeah, I wish there was a Waffle House near where I lived. Because I do miss that food. That is really impressive. And I love that family owned. No, you don't understand. We are the breakfast royalty. Period. Because that's what they are at this point then. Yeah, they are the kingdom of breakfast. That was really cool. I don't know what was going to happen in that video. There's a lot in there I did not expect coming from someone that likes Waffle House. So that's really, really cool. That's awesome. There is your chat link for the video everywhere. Yeah, that is Fat Electrician talking about the absolute unbridled insanity and awesomeness of Waffle House, apparently. Calling it the Roman Colosseum of the South, actually, okay, yeah, I'll believe it then. Because it's just an unstoppable force. Yeah, I was thinking when he was talking about the index it being red, it's like, if the index is red, the second wave of nuclear bombs is coming in. It's only yellow on the first one. Red is when the second one's coming.